Hi everybody, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel, Hallmark Plus More, where we watch and talk about shows, movies, mysteries, Hallmark ornaments, and anything else that floats your boat. So today we are going to be reviewing NCIS Origins Season 1, Episode 8. And it airs on CBS, starring Austin Stallwell as a young Leroy Jethro Gibbs. So before we get into the discussion, I just want to say thank you to everybody who subscribes and watches my videos. It means so much to me. You have no idea. So thank you so much for that. Getting into this episode, we do see a little bit more of Randy's life. We actually see a couple scenes with Randy's wife, and you see him with his young son, his newborn, and it turns out his newborn has colic. So being a parent, I'm sure all the parents and grandparents out there, you know what colic is like. It's very difficult with an infant because they cry a lot because they're in pain and they're hurting. And as a baby, a very small newborn, it's hard for them to kind of tell you, that they have colic. And it can definitely a lot of sleepless nights. I'm sure a lot of people can relate. Colic is very common. So you kind of get that background from Randy that he's going through that with his newborn. In the scene where he's holding his baby, you can tell his mind is drifting. He's thinking about something else, right? Something else is on his mind. So you kind of get that feeling he's got a secret, that is weighing on him that nobody really knows about. And then, of course, you have Mark Harmon. Love Mark Harmon. He narrates, and he kind of says the same thing, like we all have our secrets. So then you're thinking, are we going to find out about Randy's secret, right? And as it goes along in the episode, we do. And then, you kind of see Layla hanging out with their sisters. And she talks about a promotion. So then you're thinking, well, she deserves a promotion. But then you go back to, is she really going to get it? And because you don't really think she is, because we talked about that in previous episodes. Frank's is kind of sexist, and this is back in the day with the boys' clubs. So they kind of set that up at the beginning, like, is she going to be getting the promotion or not? And then you get into the episode, right? So a priest has actually died, and he died in the church right outside the confessional. So this was a Catholic priest who either right before or right after somebody did a confession with the priest, and then he was shot. So then you start thinking, like, did they know who they were killing? Because, they said there was another priest that, substituted. That Father John Larkin was the one who died, but he was substituting for another priest, Father Bobby. So then it makes you think, who was the real target? Was it Father Bobby, or were they really trying to get Larkin? So then, my head's spinning on who's the real target. And you kind of see Father Bobby, like praying over him and really distraught over the death. And then that's when you find out, like, Father Bobby thinks he was the target. So that's another reason why he's, upset and distraught. Like, could it be? And then you find out later another reason why he was upset. So, I mean, you kind of find out that Bobby was the target. And then later in the episode, you find out the gun that killed Father Larkin was also used in a robbery with the cashier. And the person who did that, who killed the person in the robbery with the cashier, confessed to Father Bobby. So then you start thinking, okay, well, then he was the intended target. This guy killed somebody. He confessed to the killing, and now he's afraid Father Bobby's going to turn him in, or something, something's going to happen, and he wants to kill the priest. But he killed the wrong one. He killed Larkin. So now you're thinking, okay, now they have to go into this protective detail of protecting Father Bobby, right? Because whoever killed Father Larkin is going to figure out it wasn't Father Bobby and go after him. So he's going on a protection detail, which is common when somebody is a target. But Randy, right away, volunteered. And they're like, no, you don't have to. Like, you've done the last 3. You don't have to do this one. And you're like, okay, does this have something to do with the secret? Because he feels like it's his duty or he needs to do this. So you're kind of like, okay, what's that mystery? The mystery in me wants to know. And in between these episodes, or in between these conversations or these scenes about the case, you see Randy talk to Gibbs. Gibbs wants to know about Mitchell. Agent Mitchell was the agent that was killed in the car. So when his wife and daughter were killed, an agent was driving the van, taking them to a safe house. The agent was killed in the head. So, he was killed, and then his wife and daughter were killed as well. So Gibbs is just asking, like, hey, did you know Father Mitchell, or I'm sorry, Agent Mitchell? Did you know Agent Mitchell that was in the car with my wife and daughter? And, Randy was like, yeah, I knew him. I didn't know him well, but you could tell it was a little uncomfortable. I think for both people. I feel like it's uncomfortable for Gibbs too. Like, he wants to know, but people are kind of uneasy talking about it. But that's, and you're thinking, okay, well, does this have any connection? Like, it doesn't have anything to do with the case, so why are they talking about it? And then, of course, we find out later with Randy's secret. And then they talk about wanting Father Bobby to tell them who the person was. But even though he committed a crime, he did it in confession, right? So there's that oath of being a priest, being a minister, that he did that in confession. And in Catholics and confessions, you are never supposed to comment. They confess to their sins and they were granted, and he won't say. So that's part of the episode too. Like, we have to get Bobby. I mean, Bobby knows who the killer is. Bobby knows who wants to kill him. And he won't say because of this oath he has as a priest. So they kind of go through that too. Like, how do we kind of get him? I mean, we're talking about his life. If we knew who was coming after him, we could protect you better, right? And then 2 guys break into the motel, which has nothing to do with the case. They're just 2 guys who saw them carrying gear, all these suitcases for the protective detail, and they basically just wanted to rob them of their gear. They knew nothing about the priest. They knew nothing about the murder. And so that was kind of one of those red herrings. It didn't really have to do with anything, but that was just kind of showing them the budget cuts, which have to do with the promotion too. The budget cuts. They're in this rundown hotel. So, that was kind of a side note. However, you do get to see Randy with the shirt off basically fighting this guy and choking him out, putting him to sleep. So I think Gibbs and Layla and even Franks, I think they were all a little, surprised, like, hey, all right, Randy, you've been working out. You can fight this guy. So I kind of like that, because you expect them to be that way, right? But you don't really see them work out that much. You see that they have a workout room. But you like that, if anybody ever watched NCIS LA, which is another franchise of NCIS, it's no longer new episodes. They're completed with that franchise, but they worked out a lot. You would see them work out, and you would see them. They were very physical. NCIS LA had a lot of fight scenes. And so that's kind of when I think of him, fighting with him, I'm thinking, they have to stay in shape too because they're federal agents and, they're going to have that. They need to be in shape. So it was kind of nice to see that because, Randy is this family guy and you just don't really think he's got it in him. And he did great, So I kind of liked seeing him do that too because, that's the way federal agents are supposed to be. They're supposed to be strong and be able to defend, especially on a protection detail. They have to be able to fight people off. I mean, they're protecting your life. They have to be strong. So I did kind of like seeing that part of Randy. And then it's eating him up inside this secret. He's alone with Father Bobby. And Father Bobby can tell. He's like, hey, do you want to get something off your chest? You're Catholic. Do you want to do confession? So Randy basically confesses to Father Bobby. And what he confesses is he was supposed to be on the protection detail of Shannon and Kelly, not Agent Mitchell. But he had a newborn at home. and had colic, hadn't slept in days, not really, strong in mind, because when you go days without sleeping, you're not very sharp. And if you're in a protection detail, you have to be sharp, right? So he basically went and said, hey, I don't think I can do this protection detail. I need to step down. Like, I'm not mentally ready. I haven't slept. Like, I have a newborn. Can you put another agent on it? And of course, they're like, that's fine. We understand. You have to be in tip-top shape if you're going to go on protection detail. You have to be alert. And sleepless nights with a newborn, you're not really alert. And then they put Agent Mitchell on the case. And then Agent Mitchell was killed along with Shannon and Kelly. So you see Randy's been keeping this in. Mitchell had a son. Randy has a son. So I feel like that connection, and he even said to his wife, he was like, look, I can't look at my son and not think about Mitchell's son. And so, you kind of hear that. And that's why when he was holding his son, he was like, and you could kind of see something turning in his head. And that's why, because Mitchell had a son and he was holding his son and he couldn't not think about Mitchell's son. So I think that kind of had, you kind of find out, okay, that's Randy's secret. That's what Randy's been holding on to. So I kind of like that they go through that. And then of course the priest finally gives up the name of who's after him, who the killer was, of the cashier, who's after him, so to speak. And they find him. It finds out the secretary in the church, it was her son. So, the priest even says that too. Hey, you can find him because his mom is the secretary of the church. So they kind of find him that way, find him pretty easily. And, it's sad anytime you find that out about a family member. So you obviously see she's religious. She's a secretary of the church. You see her praying with Father Bobby, over her son, obviously, who's now been arrested. And then you see at the end, Gibbs still struggling with Agent Mitchell. Like, he even admitted, I wrote him a letter, but I never mailed it. I just couldn't get myself up to mail it. So he actually, you see the scene of him putting the letter physically in the mailbox. Didn't mail it, but went to the Mitchell's house and gave them the letter that he wrote. So that was kind of, I feel like, a little bit of closure for Gibbs. And then, of course, the promotion we were talking about at the beginning of the episode. Franks basically says to Layla, hey, I wasn't going to recommend you. And then I decided to recommend you. And then when I got up to his office, Wheeler's office, I decided not to. And Layla's like, okay, why did you even tell me that? Like, you're not giving me the promotion. You're not recommending me, whatever. Why'd you tell me? And he was like, I thought about it. You don't belong to be on the road to be a Wheeler. You belong in the field with me. So I don't know. What's that saying? Backhanded compliment. I feel like Franks, I think, was trying to be nice by saying you're not management, you're not a supervisor like Wheeler, you're a good agent, you need to be out in the field with me solving cases. So I feel like, but at the same time, like, she could have used that promotion to get more money. Not that much. They said budget cuts. It was a very small promotion, but it was a stepping stone, right? So I feel like that was Frank's trying to be nice, but at the same time, I think Layla was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, you appreciate me in the field, but like, you still could have helped me out a little bit and you chose not to. So that's why I say I feel like it was like a backhanded compliment. Like, Franks thought he was doing a good thing. Like, oh, I can recommend her. Oh, wait, I'm not going to recommend her because she's too good of an agent. She needs to be with me. So, because I feel like this is 2024, right? We all have jobs where the supervisors or your managers are like, oh, you're too good at what you do. And you're like, so you're going to punish me? Because I've had supervisors say that to me. Oh, hey, Jen, you're too good at what you do, so I didn't promote you. So I'm being punished for being good at my job. Like, what? You know what I mean? So that's kind of what went through my head when he said that to Layla. So take that as you will. Everybody interprets things differently. But that's kind of how the episode ended. So definitely good. This episode did show more of Gibbs. But it did showcase a little bit of Randy. So, he has this newborn child that he feels like he can't really enjoy spending time with his baby, because every time he looks at his son, he thinks of Mitchell's son, and he feels like Mitchell's dead because of me, because I was supposed to do that. But when you think about it, Mitchell was killed in the head. It was probably a sniper from far away. So, I mean, if he was in the car with Shannon and Kelly, he would have been dead. But you don't think that way, right? Randy doesn't think that way. He just thinks, hey, that should have been me. That should have been me. So you find that out. You kind of find a connection between Randy and Gibbs, so to speak. Hopefully Randy can let that go. Children are only young for such a short amount of time, and you really need to cherish every moment you have with them. So I really hope this gave Randy that closure. Confessing to Father Bobby gave him that closure, that now he can enjoy time with this son, because like I said, they're only babies for such a short amount of time. You really got to cherish every moment. But definitely a good episode. Looking forward to next week to see what else goes on with the whole team. So I hope you enjoyed my review. It was definitely great talking to you. And if you enjoyed my video, definitely wait until next week for the next episode. Until then, bye.